there, beer tubers. Welcome back to Maxwell Starr's beer review. Tonight we're going to take at what's actually my second look at Belhaven's Twisted Thistle IPA. This is a Scottish IPA. We can't get it here. This is actually from Nova Scotia. My buddy Fuzz was down there last week, and he managed to find a couple bottles of beer for me, one of them being this one, which I actually requested. This is going to be my second take on Belhaven Twisted Thistle IPA, mainly because the first time I tried this beer, it was so skunky. A lot of people talk about the clear bottles. I actually kind of like the clear bottles just because you can get to see the color of beer and what's inside. It actually is a really nice looking beer from the looks of things. But it's so darn easy for these beers to get light struck. And the way they store beers in this part of the world is they've got them in coolers, but they've got them in these nice, well-lit areas where you can go and schmooze around your local liquor store looking at all the beers on the shelf. But the thing is, they've got these things on like the top shelf on a wire rack or something. Especially when it comes to an international beer like something from Scotland, this stuff has been sitting on the shelf for a while because they charge premium prices for it. This kind of beer, it's more prone to being light struck because A, it was shipped overseas, B, it was sitting on a rack in the local liquor store for months, underneath bright fluorescent lights. So it all depends on just how old this bottle is. So I'm going to take a look at this. If it ends up that this bottle being skunky, I mean the last one was really skunky.
That skunk smell from it.
If this one ends up being skunky too, I'm just going to review and post this one anyway. Because dude, if I just got a second consecutive skunky bottle on the second trip, months apart, there's something wrong with your processing if you're getting skunky that easily. But I'm keeping my fingers crossed to make sure that this one actually doesn't go bad. It says, Belhaven Twisted Thistle IPA, a refreshing example of an India Pale Ale from the master brewers at Belhaven, which is, oh, I can't remember where that is. Dunbar, Scotland. It's just outside of Dunbar. It says, the blend of Cascade and Challenger hops combine to produce an abundance of fresh hop aromas that preludes a bitter, dry taste explosion that will have your taste buds tingling. Sounds good. It's an English IPA, so I'm expecting a more like not so much an intense bitterness, but actually a nice fruity, fruity or nice tasting hop taste as well as your typical aromas. Anyway, let's pop this thing open and see how it is. Oh no! Please don't tell me you're skunky. I mean, one thing, it's got a little bit of skunk coming off the nose of that thing, but it might not be so bad. The last time I had this, the skunk filled the house. We thought something was dead outside. But this one's not so bad. Like I've said before with the clear bottles, you can sometimes get like a little bit of skunkiness that sits right at the top, so you smell it first. But once you pour the beer and start enjoying it, it's gone. It's just a little waft of la skunk or Pepe Le Pew at the very top, and that's it. So let's give this a pour here. Pretty looking. I'm getting a little too much head. I'm going to leave some in the bottle. Trying where that cap is. It does have that skunky aroma coming off the top, but it's not like... It's still quite a bit of a nice, like, caramel smells coming off of that, as well as your nice, like, earthy and fruity hop smells. I'm not really getting a whole lot because of that generous head. But I am getting some sweet grapefruit, sweet citrus. What did it use for hops? It was Cascade and Challenger. Cascade's an American hop, which gives you your grapefruit citrus smells. But again, there's actually quite a bit of almost like a slightly earthy kind of smell of like brown sugar and caramel. It's actually quite nice. It's mild underneath all that head, but it smells good. I will give it that. Maybe it is just a little bit of skunkiness at the top of the bottle because it sat on the shelf for a while. That's really nice. Appearance-wise, well, it's gratuitous head, but it's a nice, like, orange golden color. It's kind of one of those colors I'd expect from an IPA. That's really nice. Alright, so let's move on to the taste here. That's not bad. It's got a nice citrusy taste, like on the grapefruit side, but it's also got that stereotypical English kind of hop taste, where it's got that nice earthy bitterness, and there's a lot of caramel sweetness coming through on the malt side of this thing. And it's not like it's an intensely bitter beer, but it's the kind of bitterness that I would expect from a good IPA. I'm not really picking up much of that skunkiness. I mean, when I had this last time, the skunkiness in the bottle actually came out to be, it was in the taste. And I had to kind of ignore the taste. This one here, it actually works. It's really nice. A nice malty caramel sweetness, brown sugar, akin to a nice good English bitter. But this one comes out with a nice cascade and like citrus hop taste, as well as that earthy bitterness. It's not absolutely like an intense bitterness, but perhaps this big reason is because the bitterness is masked by the malt quite well. It leaves a nice lingering bitterness on the back of the palate, where it's got that nice amount of malt that sits on the back of the tongue, on the roof of the tongue, or basically throughout the front and the middle of the tongue. Yeah, it's sweet on the tip of the tongue, caramel malt in the back, fading into a bitterness, lingering bitterness in the back, and it finishes quite dry. That's actually really nice. It's kind of a medium kind of bodied beer. Being an ale, it's going to be a little heavier than your typical, like a lager would be. But this is actually really good. It's not too heavy. As far as IPAs go, it might be a little, the body might be a little closer towards like a double IPA would be. But I would still call this like a medium body. Nice amount of head on it though. Very oily, like as far as the oils go. It's very tasty. And there's almost tastes of like roasted malts and coffee. I'm picking up a fair bit of coffee in the sweetness in the back. That's quite good. I'm going to sit down with this one for a bit, and I'll come back with some thoughts. Be right back. And we're back with Belhaven Twisted Thistle IPA. So what did I think about this one? Well, starting to feel a little bit of it at 6.1% ABV, and plus I've had a couple beers before this one. But I find it to be a nice, tasty, like a nice malt flavors in this one, but it's not as strong in the hop department as you might expect from an IPA. That said, it still does have quite a bit of hop bitterness, but it's borderline on like the IBUs, where it's somewhere between a really hoppy pale ale compared to like a nice mellow IPA. It's a mild IPA, but typically your British style IPAs are a little bit milder than your North American IPAs, which can be intense hop bombs. I mean, if I were to guess the IBUs on this one, I would say it's probably around 40 or 50. Whereas your typical North American hop bomb is going to have like 80, 90 or more. At least 60 anyway. So it is mild for an India Pale Ale. Not Alexander Keith's mild, but it's actually, well, one thing I do like about this is it actually has a lot of those IPA flavors that I really like and I look for. But it's mellow. Like, for example, if you're the kind of person who weren't into IPAs, this would be a great one to get started with, because it's like that step up. Like, say if you don't really like bitter beers, but you're interested in trying more and more of them, this is a stepping stone. Like, this is like past something like Garrison Top Yard. I'd go for this. Like, it's really nice and tasty, but it's not like exceptionally hoppy for an IPA. That said, I think I'm still going to give this like a high 3.5 out of 5. I really like this one. This one's actually really good, but it's not quite as bitter as I would expect. However, the malt character in this particular beer is quite nice. So it's got that malty backbone down pat. If they were to increase the bitterness on this one here, they could make it a lot better. But that said, I really enjoyed this beer, and I'd drink this again. Just as I'm really enjoying drinking this one now. Anyway, thanks for stopping by and watching Maxwell Starr's beer review. Hope you enjoyed watching this review, and I'll talk to you later. Cheers.